Hey, as a VIN Solutions Performance Manager, I am a part of a community of about 75 other senior leaders in VIN Solutions that get to interact with the more than 19,000 dealerships over the course of time that have signed up with VIN Solutions and use our tool to make sure they sell more and make more. And what's great about that is that we live in community. We regularly connect, now obviously virtually, every day to share best practices, the things that we're seeing across the entire automotive world that dealerships are doing to sell more and make more. And that's really what I'm going to draw from today as we have this discussion together. I'm going to share with you the best practices of the highest performing dealerships, the highest I-lead closing ratios, the highest in terms of number of cars sold, maybe in the region or district. I want to show you that. And this is gleaned from, again, our whole community, because as performance managers, we literally engage with all of the dealerships every month, and we're learning all the time. And we want to pass that on to you and make sure you know what other dealerships or you can do to do a great job. Now, interestingly enough, I'm going to share with you the real agenda shortly, but we actually have a secret agenda in VIN Solutions. The secret agenda is this. Every day, our performance management team, our support team, our implementation team, even our sales team, wake up literally and have the discussion, what can we do today to help dealerships sell more and make more, both in service or on the front side as well, new and used cars. That's all we care about. That's what we got up today to do. Now, in this particular discussion, I did work out a pretty specific agenda. I'm going to walk you through that as well. Today's agenda is to help you uncover the 6 hidden gems that we typically see in every established dealership, in every CRM. And I'm first going to go through a little bit of an intro. It'll take just a few minutes so that the 6 hidden gems have a context and you can see where I'm going with that. But here are the 6 hidden gems. The first is making sure that you're engaging well in the immediate, right? That's really important. The next is to make sure that you're engaging such that you're in it to win it. Are you doing the right sort of things that actually lead to a new car sale or a new RO closed as well? And then I want you to think about lost. This is going to be the most perhaps surprising aspect of what we share today, is the understanding that lost, and thanks again to Jeremy for introducing me, but Jeremy actually shared this phrase with me and I thought it was brilliant. Lost is really a request for long-term follow-up. I'm going to show you how dealerships are gleaning substantial car sales from leads that had previously been marked lost. Next, I want to talk about the river. Did you know today you have a river of customers flowing through your dealership? It's the service drive, and every single day, ROs are closed and ROs are opened by customers who may have never done business with us before. Then I want to talk about the lake, and that's the history, this big pool, this big body of opportunities that rest back serenely behind you that we can glean from right now and produce a car sale today. And then lastly, I want to talk about the foundation. Your dealership has been in business for a while. You have a foundation, people who have already done business with you, and owning them, loving them, and being engaged with them will lead to consistent business. Even if you're in an urban area where there's lots of competitors right around the corner or right down the street, we can talk about that as well. Now, let's go back to the basics. Do you remember John Wooden, the great basketball coach? He led UCLA to 12 national championships over about a 15-year period. Do you know what he used to do? The first fall practice, even with people like Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, the very first practice, he would line the guys up at the free throw line. He would say, this is a basketball, that is the net, and these are your shoes. This is how at UCLA we tie our shoes, and this is how at UCLA we shoot the ball, the basics. And I want to remind you of the absolute basics in the car industry. There's only 3 places you can sell your next new or used vehicle. There's only 3 opportunities that every car dealership has. I know it's surprising, isn't it? But if you boil it down to just the 3 places where you can sell the next opportunity, it really makes it quite easy to understand. The first is, of course, unsold leads. The vast majority of people who sign up for CRM typically do so in order to sell cars to people they've never sold a car to before. And most dealerships do a decent job of that. So that's obviously not new information. You know that you can sell a car to someone you've never sold a car to. But the other opportunity is to people in the service drive. And this is typically where the difference maker begins between dealerships that are super high performing and dealerships that are just kind of average or maybe even just a little below average, is how are they engaging those service customers to sell the next new or used vehicle? And then lastly, the previously sold customers. So those are the three streams. That's it. The three streams that are available to every car dealership. And I think if I could get anything communicated to you today is, will you agree with me to be intentional, to set up a process to harvest all three opportunities intentionally? Let's start with unsold. I want to give a little overview before I do a very deep and specific dive on that. In terms of unsold leads, they basically fall into 4 different categories, right? iLeads, and everybody knows about internet leads. iLeads are going to be out there, and don't forget the amazing integrations we now have with Facebook and Facebook Marketplace. So through VinSolutions, you can be intentional to be engaged with iLeads well. And everybody knows that. The other one you can do, of course, is repeat and referral. And generally, those don't have a formal process necessarily. Phone ups, though. And do you know that phone ups are absolutely the lowest hanging fruit of people you've not gotten in the door? In 2017, Cox Automotive, and you know that we own Dealer.com, we own DealerTrack, we own Manheim, we own vAuto, we own AutoTrader, we obviously have VinSolutions. We have the market leaders in almost every software solution category, right? So we amalgamated all of the data that we found out of Xtime and HomeNet and all those other solutions that we have to discover what goes into a car sale. And we created the car buyer journey, a comprehensive study. And this is what we found. This is going to be shocking. A phone app, on average, has spent 8 hours and 40 minutes cyber stalking your dealership before they ever picked up the phone. And this is particularly true for millennials. Millennials actually only place the call absolutely positively when they're actually ready to move forward with the purchase. So if they've spent 8.5 hours, likewise, you would know, right, that they probably know your inventory very well. They've searched through your inventory. That's why they're calling you. They know what vehicle they want to buy, and they probably know more about it because they're about to spend $20 or $30 or $40 or $50,000 on it than you do about it. They'll know the differential. They'll know all the different packages, all those different things. Secondarily, wouldn't it make sense they've probably gone out and had their own trade already valued? So they already know what they want to buy. They've already had the trade value, and they probably use some online tool to figure out a fair price for what they want to buy. So there's really only 2 questions that we need to ask a phone up. Good afternoon. What car did you want to buy, and how much did you want to pay? Because phone ups are absolutely the lowest hanging fruit of people you've yet to get into the front door. And then, of course, there's walk-ins. And most people do walk-ins quite well, to be frank. And as you're adding customers, you can look at it and see that you have the opportunity in VinSolutions to determine which of these are, and that's going to file into your processes, right? That's the unsold leads that are very obvious to you. iLeads, phone ups, walk-ins, repeat referral, that kind of thing. But now let's talk, and we're going to do a bigger, deeper dive on this in a minute, is the lost opportunities. Because lost, as I said earlier, is really just a request for long-term follow-up. Because unless you live in Chicago or Toronto, Vancouver, New York, San Francisco, and you live in the urban core, it's very unlikely that you're able to get to your job without a car. 95% of the people who live in North America who have a job have a car. So meaning, if we didn't sell them this time around, they're going to be a buyer at some time. So let's stay engaged with them and make sure that sometime is your time and you're the one that's going to sell them. Next piece we're going to talk about is the service drive. Remember, there's 3 opportunities, 3 streams. We've talked about unsold leads. Now let's talk about the service drive. And the service drive has 2 key components to it. The people who are about to come in, who are in right now, right? the opportunities that are in the building or about to come in the building, which we can get to through the service appointment dashboard. Go to dashboard, service appointment dashboards. And because of our integrations with the great DMSs of the world, DealerTrack, CDK, Reynolds, or our integrations with things like Xtime, we collect straight into your CRM. We collect those service appointments looking forward into the future and what's there today. And did you notice in there, you can look, let me go back a minute, you can see all about that car. You can see the equity position. Remember, we own DealerTrack, we own Viato. We can use those tools to calculate a really good equity for you automatically in the background and produce for you that customer's equity position. We can also show you how many clicks are on the car, what they're in, whether or not the ROs are there. So that's the service drive looking today and into tomorrow. But you can also look at the previous service drive, the people who came in, closed an RO, but we didn't yet present an opportunity to replace their vehicle. That's the service drive looking backwards, right? Then, of course, there is the database of previously sold. If you have VinSolutions Target Pro product, you can dig it there. Although through your performance manager, even without Target Pro, you can get there through the campaigns tool. So if you want to be intentional to reach into your previously sold database, reach out to your performance manager. We're experts in how to data mine to find low-hanging fruit as well. Let's do a little bit deeper dive on those. So that's the overview. Let's do a little bit deeper dive. This is a sidebar for a minute. But when you are going to sell an internet lead and when it arrives, I'd like you to consider, if you will, the QQC model. The first Q, respond quickly. Again, back to 2017, the car buyer journey that Cox Automotive did through the amalgamated data of all of our solutions. We found this. You must respond to an iLead quickly. And by quickly, we mean within 5 to 10 minutes. Because our survey showed if you respond at 20 minutes or later, it may as well have been 24 hours. Because in that 20 minutes that you didn't respond, somebody else, in all likelihood, did respond. So first is respond quickly. And what's great about the VinSolutions CRM is we have built-in alerts and other ways to show you that an iLead is aging. If you're not using those, reach out to your performance manager, ask them to show you how to set it up such that you're not going to miss an iLead when it comes in, and you're not going to miss responding quickly as well. So that's the first Q of QQC, responding quickly. The next Q is to respond in a quality way. So first respond quickly, but then in the response, make sure you're answering with quality data. So we as performance managers will frequently secret shop our dealerships by sending in fake iLeads just to see how the dealerships are doing on this first Q quickly and the second Q quality. And almost always we will embed a question that's a bit nebulous just to see if in fact the dealerships are responding in a quality way. So here's a trick that I often do. Let's say I have a Chevy dealership. I'll send in a lead on a Corvette and I'll ask, does this Corvette have third row seating and a tow package? Just to see if they respond. Let's walk through what a quality response looks like. It's called an FQR, a first quality response, FQR, and it has the following. First of all, it answers their question, right? That's the first thing. Number two, it's going to offer a price on the vehicle that they're interested in. Because we found through that 2017 study, if you don't offer a price, you're not a player. Millennials will not engage with you if you're not revealing, fully revelatory. So offer a price. Number three, offer an alternative vehicle. And by doing so, you can ask them questions like, what caught your imagination about this vehicle? So offer an alternative, because in the alternative becomes the profit. You can sell the car you want to sell as opposed to the car maybe they were interested in. What if I could save you $10,000 on this vet versus that vet, for instance? Number four, make sure there's a call to action, that you're asking for them to come in or set in the appointment. And number five, you give them your contact information, remind them, set the expectation that you're going to keep reaching out until they respond to you. That's the 5 key components of our first quality response. Answer the question, price, alternative, call to action, and your contact information. So that's Quickly, we talked about that within 20 minutes. Quality, we talked about that. Lastly, the C is consistency. You must stay engaged with an iLead consistently. What do I mean by that? In the first day, an iLead needs at least 3 responses. Phone, text, email, at least 3 responses. And if they only give you one form of communication, use that 3 times. But in the first day, make sure you've reached out at least 3 times. And over the first 3 days, make sure you've reached out at least 9 times. That's what we have to do to be consistent. We must stay with it. So back to that 2017 study, right? This is what we discovered, that an iLead on average, an internet lead on average, sells only after there has been at least 12 actual, on average, contacts with the customer. 12 times. You've got to actually engage, have a volley with the customer 12 times on average to get them in. Well, to get to 12, because the contact rate in the car industry has always been around 50%, you have to attempt 24. So 24 outbound attempts equals 12 actual contacts, which equals 1 car sale. So stay with it consistently. But there's one last piece. Want to know the difference between the car dealerships that sell maybe 10 or 12% of their iLeads? And 10's about the national average. I don't know where you are, but 10's about the national average. You get 8 if you do nothing. What's the difference between the dealerships that move from 10 to 12 to 14% iLead closing ratio to 16, or I've even had dealerships that have closed 18? Well, it goes back to what old Chicago song. Remember the song, Color My World? As time goes on, I realize just what you mean to me. Now you know why I'm in the car industry and not on stage, right? But do you remember that song? It talks about how you must stay engaged over the long term. Because as I shared with you earlier, we own DealerTrack. That's one of our businesses. So we have now a correlation between credit score and buying cycle. The higher the credit score, the longer the burn. So if an iLead is responding slowly, you can presume they have a high credit score and can absolutely buy. So staying engaged over the long term can make a difference. And the dealerships that stay engaged intentionally, 60 to 90 days, are the dealerships that are moving the needle to 14, 16, 18% iLead closing ratios. Okay, that's the overview. Now I want to dig in deeply, and I want to go show you in your tool, in your VinSolutions tool, exactly where you can find the hidden gems that are going to lead to car sales. The first hidden gem is a report called Yesterday's Action Items, and then its sister, 2 days ago, Action Items as well, and then its cousin, My Dashboard. Let me explain. It's 8 o'clock in the morning. You're walking in the dealership and you're a desk manager, right? You have at that point a few choices of what you can do. You can maybe have a lot party and do the lot, or you can get everybody together and chastise them and ask how hard they're going to work. Or you could go out to the dumpster and smoke and joke with the crowd, or maybe go to the service drive, grab a donut, go up to the receptionist and flirt with her. You could do those things. Or you could do something super productive. Let's say it's 8 o'clock in the morning. What if you agreed to come in and the first thing you do, coffee in the right hand, a donut in the other hand, for my Canadian friends, a double-double in your right hand, a Canadian maple in your left hand. While you walk in the dealership, do this. Walk straight over to your PC and open up your VinSolutions, go to Insights, and go to Yesterday's Action Items. It's like, do you remember in The Lion King? Do you remember Zazu, the bird, the very opening scene of The Lion King? He gives Mufasa, the morning report. And he tells Mufasa of all the different things that are happening across the kingdom. That's what Yesterday's Action Items does for you. So Insights, Yesterday's Action Items, will bring to the fore every opportunity that's been presented to the dealership over the last 24 hours. iLeads, phone ups, walk-ins, and email replies. So if you will, you could think of the CRM as a fishing net. By jumping into Yesterday's Action Items, you are making sure there's no holes in your fishing net. And it'll immediately bring to you I actually was working with a dealership today. I showed him this for the first time, and literally in 30 seconds, I showed him an inbound email where the customer said, did you get my credit report? I want to know if I can buy a car today. That happened live today. That's almost always the yesterday's action items. So when I'm working with a dealership and I showed them yesterday's action items, virtually always I can show them a car deal for today that they would have missed otherwise. And then its sister, the two-day version, is simply a report that we built because some dealerships are closed on holidays or closed on Sundays to give you a 48-hour review. So the first one, yesterday's action items, is a 24-hour review. The second one is a 48-hour review. But what about the last 10 days? Now, on our team, we've got some amazing people. Some of the performance managers are really, really skilled. And a performance manager named Jim Blaha wrote a piece called My Dashboard. And in it, he looked at a 10-day view. And I can make that available, or your manager, your performance manager can make that available to you as well. And in My Dashboard, it gives you a 10-day view of every opportunity that's been presented that we've not yet closed. So it'll show you iLeads that we're talking to but not getting in the door, iLeads that we're not talking to, phone ups that we've not gotten in the door, walk-ins that we've missed as well over a 10-day period. So one way to think about what I've shared with you is through those reports, you've got kind of concentric circles, right? There's the 24-hour window, yesterday's action items, the 48-hour window, 2 days ago, or the 10-day view, My Dashboard. I was made a desk manager about 7 years ago. I moved my way up from the sales floor to the internet department, then I was made a desk manager. And as I was made a desk manager, about 6 months later, I was promoted to GSM, and I began to ask myself, what are the great dealerships doing? And this is what I discovered. The great dealerships, remember the Chicago song, are staying in it for a long time, because this is hidden gem number 2. I have discovered, as all our performance management team has discovered across all of our dealerships, again, 19,000 dealerships have used our solution, we find that leads after about 10 days, boom, fall off the cliff. So we rate a report, which you have to ask for. It's out there, but you got to have it, share it with you, called the cliff. And it brings to fore every active lead, active, from the last 60 days with whom there's been no contact in the last 10 days. Active leads from all sources, no contact last 10 days. That's the cliff. And in this particular dealership, you can see it's about 450 deals, and that's not uncommon. It's regularly hundreds or more than that of people who are still active, but nobody's talking to because they're out of mind and out of sight. And by the way, within Vin Solutions, you can use our advanced search tool to drill the same data. That's actually how I came up with this. I originally did this off of advanced search. Drill the same data by putting in parameters. When was the lead received? 60 days ago. When was the last contact? 10 days ago or more. And from there, you can immediately fire a phone task to the sales rep of record saying, please get a hold of this customer. They're still active, but nobody is talking to them. And by the way, this dovetails straight into what I was talking about earlier with DealerTrack. What we're discovering is, again, the longer the burn, the higher the credit score. Again, a 630 beacon score will buy whatever you want to sell them. But an 830, no, I don't think so. They're going to buy what they want to buy when they want to buy it. They're on their time frame, not your time frame. I mean, really, seriously, do you think ever a customer said to themselves, oh my gosh, it's getting towards the end of the month, I better go into the dealership to make sure they hit their numbers? Nope, never happened. Customers are on their timeline, and the cliff brings to fore the opportunities. Now let's talk about one that's going to blow your mind. The third hidden gem, lost opportunities. It's April 2012, and a salesman walks into a dealership and says, I'd like to sell cars. I've never done that before. And the desk manager looks at this guy named James. One of the names he goes by is James, and says to James, well, before you can sell here, you have to be certified. How do I do that? You sit at the computer over there and you take 2 days of certification classes to learn our product and to learn our sales process. Okay, fine. Went over to the corner, sat down on the computer and did all the product knowledge certifications and all the sales process certifications. After 2 days, now April 14th, walks out to the dealership group, says to the manager who hired him, I'm ready, I'm certified. He goes, great. Your desk is right over there. That was the entirety of the training. Your desk is right over there. So James went over to the desk, sat down at the desk. And about 15 minutes later, a car pulled into the lot. And James jumped up and said, "Oh, I got me one," and began to walk through the door. Just as James was out of sight of the front desk, he felt a massive hand on his shoulder. He looked over his shoulder. A big guy named Tony, Grumpy Tony, the dealership called him, grabbed him by the shoulder and pulled him back and said, "Sit down, Green Pea. Ups aren't for newbies." About 10 minutes later, the phone rang. James, in his excitement, grabbed the phone. But before he could get the receiver to his face, it was knocked out of his hand by a guy named Jim. And Jim said to James, "Don't bother, newbie. Phone ups aren't for green peas." Now James is a bit excited. In fact, he's mad. So he walks over to the front desk and he says to the desk manager, a guy named Rob. By the way, that guy, Rob, is now a performance manager with Vin Solutions. Rob Childers is the guy who was involved in this. He walked up to that desk manager and said, "Hey, Rob, do Jim and Tony sell every vehicle opportunity they're given?" "Nope." "What do you do with them?" "We mark them lost." "What?" "Yeah, we mark them lost." "Have Jim and Tony marked any lost?" "Sure have." "Can I have the name of every dealership, of every customer that Jim and Tony have marked lost?" "What?" "Yeah, I want the name of every customer that Jim and Tony have marked lost in the last year." So they printed out an Excel spreadsheet and handed it to James and said, "There you go." So he walked over to Tony and said, "You've got 1,800 people over the last year you've marked lost. Can I call them?" "I don't care, whatever. You can't sell those people. Those are stupid eye leads." "Okay, thanks. I'll call them." "Hey, Jim, you've got 1,200. Together combined, 3,000. You've got 1,200 that you marked lost. Do you mind if I call them?" "Nope." James walked back to Rob and said, "Can you put these in my name?" "Sure, whatever." James went back over to his desk and sat down alone. Picked up the phone. Ring, 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 ring. "Hello, this is James with the Kia store down the street. Do you, oh, you already bought one? Congratulations. Do you know that we have the very best service department? And I know you bought from our competitor, but our service is the best. Can I book your first oil change?" Then James took that name back to the service writer on his first day and said, "Hey, my name is James. Yeah, James, I just booked a service appointment for you. Here's Carol. She's bringing in her Kia Sorento next week for an oil change. See ya. Remember my name, Brian." Then James then walked back to the desk and began to make another call. James found out he could make about 17 outbound phone calls in an hour. And he dedicated 3 hours a day to doing that. So between 9 o'clock in the morning on that first day and noon, James attempted 50 outbound phone calls. And he discovered, just like the Cox Automotive survey did, that he got a hold of about half of those people. So he picked up the phone 50 times, got a hold of 25. And wouldn't you know it, he booked 2 future appointments from that and sold 1 car that afternoon. The next day, he repeated, just said, "I'm going to come in and call lost leads." And from lost leads, James discovered there was a 2% closing ratio. And that if you pick up the phone 50 times, you get a hold of about 25 people, you'll book 2 future appointments, and you'll sell 1 car. 50, 25, 2, 1. Did you catch that? 50, 25, 2, 1. Pick up 50 times, get a hold of 25 people, book 2 future appointments, sell 1 car. From April 14th of 2012 to April 30th, James sold 23 and a half new cars, calling Jim and Tony's lost leads at a 2% closing ratio off of 50, 25, 2, 1, off the lost ones. At the end of April, he walked into the sales meeting, and they had all the results on the board. And he walked over to Jim and Tony and said, "Hey, I noticed I sold 23 and a half. You sold 18 and 15 respectively. You need any help? I sit right over there." Lost, as Jeremy Kogel says, is simply a request for more follow-up. Isn't that amazing? I want to go back. Actually, I want to go back and tell you a little bit more about Lost. If we go to Vancouver Island for a minute, there's a dealer group out there that saw the opportunity in Lost and said to me, "Is there a way we can re-engage?" So we did a trick in the CRM, and you can do this. You can absolutely do this. We built a lead bucket that the lost leads after 90 days flow into. We take them out of the name of the person they were given to and throw them into a lead bucket, and hungry people can go grab any lost lead and re-engage them. We call that the happy hunting grounds, and your performance manager can help you set that up. You can actually reestablish a special bucket of customers who were lost, never sold, that hungry people, desperate people, like James was that first day, could sell people to. All right, let's move on. The service drive. Hidden gem number 4, the service drive looking forward. So here's a story that actually happened. In a dealership, a guy named Ronnie walks in one day and says, I want to sell cars. Ronnie's got kind of a funny accent. And the dealership says, well, Ronnie, do you know how to use a computer? Nope. They go, Ronnie, I've got an idea for you. All I want you to do is go into Vin Solutions and pull up the service appointment dashboard. That's what I've got on my screen right now. The service appointment dashboard. It will show you every customer that's in service today and who's coming in tomorrow. And all I want you to do, Ronnie, is I want you to call the ones that are coming in tomorrow and greet them. Simply say to them, hi, my name is Ronnie. You booked a service appointment tomorrow to have an oil change. I'm your representative here, and I just wanted to say hi. How do you take your coffee? Then, Ronnie, what we want you to do is walk up to every single service customer that you see in the service drive waiting room or as they pull in and do an if I could, would you with them. Ask him, if I could get you a new one for a similar payment by lowering your interest rate, would that be of interest to you? What's your favorite color? What do you like? Or, that's one, if I could, would you consider upgrading your vehicle today, resetting your warranty to 0, brand new tires and brakes, and getting the exact features and functions you want, and I could keep your payment the same. Would that be of any interest to you? Or you could say to them, hey, I've got a buyer, a person named, and then you say the name of your used car buyer who's looking for a vehicle just like yours. 2 scripts that work perfectly. If I could, would you? And we have a buyer, and just name the person who buys cars for your dealership who'd like to buy a vehicle just like yours. That guy, Ronnie, averages 1.5 cars per day worked by looking at the service drive looking forward through the service appointment dashboard. Remember, it gives you a fully informed view to the customer, right? You can see the number of miles on the vehicle, the equity position, all of those things. So that's the service drive looking forward and what that can look like for someone if you put someone intentionally on it. And my challenge to you is this. Would you consider doing that? Would you consider being intentional to work with your performance manager to set somebody in your dealership up who does almost nothing but working the service drive, looking for vehicles to upgrade and vehicles to buy back? That's the service drive looking forward. Now let's think about the service drive looking backwards. Through our insights tools, our performance management team has built a number of reports that will show you immediately customers who've been in the service drive who haven't recently bought or have ever bought. And did you realize this might be the single best place for customer acquisition? Think about that. If they're servicing with you, but bought otherwise somewhere else, then this is your opportunity to convert them to a customer. And by the way, they've already done the 2 most important things for a customer. They've walked in the front door and they've stroked a check. So these aren't cold calls. These are warm calls. Do you remember Tony, Grumpy Tony, sit down green pea, upstart for newbies? Well, it turns out that dealership found out that Grumpy Tony had 1,800 leads that were marked lost because he doesn't believe in iLeads. He's old school. He's a salty car dog, been around forever. He wants to engage a customer. He uses words like not enough traffic. Well, it turns out they were able to link Grumpy Tony to this particular report, service not sold last 60 days. And Tony was actually really good at actually talking to customers. He just wasn't good at cold calls. And it's a warm call. So they put Tony on that. And Tony went from selling about 12 to 15 cars a month to 20 cars a month by reaching back into the service appointment dashboard, looking backwards through the insights tool, service not sold last 60 days. Think about that. If you could move somebody in your dealership from 10 or 12 or 15 cars to 18 or 20 by telling them they have the exclusive access, that worked for Tony, by the way. Tony, yeah, boss, we're going to give you exclusive access to the service appointment customers who didn't buy a car from us. Really, boss? Yeah. And off he goes. That's the service appointment looking backwards. Now let's talk about hidden gem number 6, the previously sold customers, the foundation of the car industry. Previously sold, because you know that most likely a customer who bought from you is going to buy again that brand and probably from you if you'll get out to them. So let me tell you the story of a guy named Joey. Joey walked into a car dealership one day and said, I want to sell cars. And the sales manager said, Joey, yes, you speak really slowly. You're boring me as you talk. But I think you could do this because you speak in a very measured way. I'm going to give you a list of everybody who's previously purchased from us. I'm going to show you their rate, their equity position, and their payment. Now, all I want you to do is give them a call and say, hello, Mr. Customer, in your Joey voice. Hello, Mr. Customer. Hello, Mrs. Customer. Yes, I'm calling to apologize. What? You could do that. That's a joke. Yes, you're paying too high of a rate. If I could lower your rate and get you exactly what you wanted for a similar payment, would that be of any interest to you? So in the Insights tool, your performance manager can help you get to your sold database. And you can use triggers like the interest rate, all people who are 6% or higher, the equity position, people who are in a positive equity position. Or you can use the boost up idea. You probably don't know about this if you're not Canadian. By the way, I'm American. I'm also fully Canadian, eh? And so as a result of that, in Canada, we built something that's really common called the private sale or the boost up campaign. And the premise behind this is if they're buying X, they'd rather buy Y. Now, I became the GSM of a Kia dealership one year. And I'm going to tell you, this is what I'm going to share is my own story, but it's really common across the Vinisphere, particularly the northern, true north Canadian brothers and sisters. And that's the idea of a boost up. So one year in my store, I was having a really lousy October. And so it was getting towards the end of the month. And so I thought, what am I going to do? So I used Insights and all the tools there to dig for, and the advanced search tool to dig for everybody who'd bought a Kia Soul 2, 3, or 4 years ago. And I fired a phone campaign out to my staff and said, here's what I want you to do. I want you to call up all the people and ask them this. It's Halloween. It's October. Did you still have that Kia Soul? Yeah. Will you sell me your Soul? And they laugh, right? Will you sell me your Soul? And then you'd offer this. We think based on your equity position or the current interest rates or the incentives that our manufacturer gives to customers who are loyal to them, we think we can get you a Kia Sorento for the same price as a Kia Soul. You can do this. You can do Malibu to Suburban. You can do RAV4 to Highlander. You can do whatever you want. Boost them up. The premise is if they're driving X, they'd rather be driving Y. You could also do, does that car meet your needs 100% right now? Because if I could get you a blue one with leather and a sunroof for a similar payment, would that be of any interest to you? So your performance manager can work with you to help you find, through our Insights tool, data points within your sold customer database that will give you actionable information. Again, interest rate, equity position, what are they driving, what's their payment, any of those things, right? Follow? That's the previously sold database. Hidden gem number 6, previously sold. Don't forget about lease prospects. Did you know that your CRM automatically tracks your lease prospects in a 180 view going backwards? So 6 months coming back will show you automatically customers, lease prospects by sales rep's name will show you whose leases are coming due. We can also build in through VinSolutions a process for you Canadian friends. We can build out a process that will give you an automatically firing event as leases begin to expire to make sure you don't miss anybody. And believe me, in today's environment where inventory is so hard to come across, if you're not intentional to reach out to your lease prospects very early on, you're not going to have anything to sell them. So you could reach out to them 6 months in advance and say, we're running about 3 to 5 months on orders for cars for leases. What would you like exactly? And have them dream in to the vehicle they really want. And then when it comes around, you've got the vehicle in stock, and then you've got their opportunity to turn them into a new lease as well. Well, we've done it, guys. We've talked about the 6 hidden gems. And of course, I wouldn't be in the car industry if I didn't have an ask for you. I'm going to have a call to action. Will you join me? Will you agree today to be intentional to walk into these 6 hidden gems by harvesting from all 3 streams? Remember what they were? That we're going to engage well in the immediate through yesterday's action items, today's action items, and my dashboard. That we're going to stay in it for the long term. We're not going to let people fall off the cliff. Remember the cliff? But we're going to engage lost leads intentionally, knowing they're going to buy a car someday. As long as we stay engaged with them, that someday and that somewhere will be you. Next, will you consider engaging the river? Your service drive and every day has 10, 20, 30, or 50 ROs that are being closed by customers who've never purchased a vehicle from you. And think about that. You have an opportunity to acquire a vehicle for your pre-owned lot in an era where it's really hard to find them. Will you stay with the river part 2, the lake, the big lake, the data looking backwards, all the people who have closed an RO with you who've never bought a car from you? And lastly, will you agree to work the foundation to make sure you're being intentional to offer a replacement vehicle to everybody in your sold database based on their needs, what their situation is? Well, thank you. I really appreciate you. Thanks for taking the time to be with me today. I hope this has been helpful. I've really enjoyed the questions that have been coming in. Keep them coming. There's my contact information. I, of course, would love to hear from anybody if you have any questions or have some specifics you'd like to talk about. I'll, of course, also connect in your own performance manager who wants to engage with you to deal with that hidden agenda we have to help you sell more and make more. Thank you very much.